Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, just a little background about SoStocked, Will. So Chelsea and I have been selling on Amazon since 2014. We have totally different backgrounds, not from the e-com space, not from the SaaS space. In 2014, we found Amazon through some friends that were making a bunch of money selling on Amazon. And so we started selling our own private label brand, sourcing from China. We started in the kitchen space. We quickly ramped that up to a seven-figure business, and we quit our jobs, and we were doing speaking events, and we started doing coaching, and Chelsea also started a copywriting agency. And 2017 was gangbusters for us. 2018 started slowing down a little bit. We were having inventory management problems. It was getting very stressful. And so I'm just going to change the view real quick so I can see it better. There we go. And then that's when Chelsea had the idea, gosh, I'm using all these spreadsheets. We're trying to keep track of inventory. It's really frustrating. We keep stocking out. Our orders always seem to be postponed, and the lead times are all BS, and it was just very stressful, right? I'm sure you're familiar with the operations side of running physical products, Amazon-based business. So long story short, we actually went to an event where Chelsea was doing a presentation on copywriting, on listing optimization. And she spoke and did her presentation. And at lunchtime, some of the speakers went out and had lunch together. And that's where we met Dan Fernandez, our partner. And Dan has the SaaS background. He built a software called Thomason.com back in 2014, 15, and 2016. They were huge in the Amazon space. And then Amazon changed their TOS and made it really difficult to do influencer marketing and stuff like that. But anyway, Dan was looking for a new SaaS project. So we partnered up with him and his partner, John. And John is the marketing guy. They brought with them their development team of 10 years. So now it's been about 14, 15 years. And we built SoStocked. So it took us about two and a half years to get it to really the launchable state. We launched it in 2020 officially. And over the last couple of years, we've just been improving it and adding new features and things like that. And then we're super happy that as of 2 months ago-ish, we got to partner with Carbon 6. So they're amazing. We're going to get better resources, and we're just going to grow a lot faster now because they have a bunch of really cool tools. So that said, I can jump in and kind of show you how it works.
There we go.
Yeah, we can.
All right. Okay, cool. So I'll just kind of go high level real quick. So when you first connect to SoStocked, what we're going to do is we're just going to connect through Amazon's new SP API, which is their global API. Now, my test account here is only connected to North America, but we are also connected to Europe and Far East. So we can now connect to Australia, India, Japan, all the European countries. And Amazon's funny, they consider the UAE and also India as part of Europe for whatever reason, even though they're 4,000 miles apart, but hey, there you go. So once we connect that, we're going to pull in all of your current listings from Amazon. We're also going to pull in your vendors. That means any ship from address where you've sent inventory into Amazon from like a warehouse or a prep center or a supplier. And we can build custom dashboards up here, but this basically just shows you what you have in stock, ASIN SKUs. This is a new one that we added, lost sales. Basically what we're looking at here is how many days out of stock have you been in the last 365 days? And we multiply that by your adjusted velocity, which is your average daily sales, and multiply that by your average retail price. And that tells us how much money you've lost not selling when you were stocked out. And some people love it and some people hate it. Like, look how much money you could make if we kept you in stock. But there's about 80 different columns here, different data that we can pull in. This is just data. This isn't really anything fancy. But there's really cool stuff in here in terms of like, when's my next stock out day, just all kinds of inventory management dashboards that you can build here. The real point of this is just to track your inventory. We also, like I said, pull in your vendors. So any ship from address, all your suppliers, warehouses, etc. You can customize your vendors. We also build out custom lead times. And this is one of the things that makes SoStocked different, is that you're going to set up a lead time, which is the average amount of time it takes from the minute you place your order to when it arrives at its final destination. So if your lead time is, I buy my stuff from this company here or whatever, and then it travels and it goes to Amazon, or it goes to a warehouse, or whatever that is. You can set that lead time, and then you can assign it as a default lead time to your vendors. And then there's a hierarchy. So if I give this lead time, if I assign this lead time to my vendors, then it will automatically apply to all the products assigned to that vendor. So once we assign that lead time, and the whole purpose of doing that is so that when we place our orders, what we're really doing is we're building out data for the forecast. And what the forecast is doing is it's looking at so basically what we're doing is we're breaking it down by marketplace, or you can group marketplaces into regions. Like in this case, we are selling in the North America Remote Fulfillment, or NARF program. So we're selling in US, Canada, Mexico, but all of our inventory is actually being stored in US FBA fulfillment centers. So rather than having like, Spiralife US, Spiralife Canada, Spiralife Mexico, we just group it into one regional grouping and one forecast, since we're gonna send that inventory to the US. What this is looking at the past 180 days and breaking it down into different periods of time. So in the last 2 days, we've been averaging 9.5 units per day. Our 7-day average is 9.29, et cetera, going all the way back to 180. So you can see that on this product, we were selling more last year than we're selling now. So this gives you the option the default setting is we're just going to average out all 7 periods, and this is called your adjusted velocity. It's literally just adding up these 7 periods, dividing it by 7. And this is a lot more accurate and also customizable than what Amazon tells you. What Amazon generally tells you is this number, your average 90-day sales, and that's it. But if you have a seasonal product and I'm selling more now than I was then, or something like that, or less now than I was then, if I use only my 90-day average, my forecasts are going to be based on sales that I'm not really making anymore. So we give you the opportunity to choose periods of time and kind of average out your averages, so to speak. Does that make sense so far? Cool. By the way, feel free to cut me off at any time. I talk fast and there's a lot to cover. So if you ever have questions, just go, hey, wait, real quick. We do give you the option to put weighted averages on any of these periods. So let's say, again, it's kind of more of a seasonal deal. And I go, you know what, my product is really starting to pick up. I want to put like 85% of my forecast, or 80% coming from here, 10% from here, and I don't know, 5 and 5 over here, something like that. Then it's going to just re-average the average again with those different weights and give you your adjusted velocity. We also have a way to look at last year's sales. So if you wanted to look at last year's sales and go, I just want to duplicate whatever we sold last year, including all the seasonal ups and downs. If I switch this over to monthly, you can kind of see the seasonality here. These are the same numbers, right? Like basically this is what we did last year. And if you don't have any additional sales growth, then it'll be the same this year. We actually have a much more fancy automated seasonality tool, which I'll show you in a minute. This is kind of one of our older tools. If you have a brand new product that you're launching and you don't have any sales history for it, you can just put a manual velocity in there too, and that will be your adjusted velocity. But for now, let's just use something like this. So I'll save that. And on any one of the tools in our forecast, you can save and apply to all products or any grouping of products. Okay, good. So now I've saved these periods. So I'm averaging 9.86 units per day. Let's go into the forecast and look at what all this stuff means. By the way, the blue button means this is our recommended transfer of existing inventory, and the green button is a recommended order for brand new inventory. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. So first thing I want to talk about real quick is our inventory timeline. You can look at it daily, weekly, or monthly. And basically what this shows is what you currently have at Amazon as of right now. So right now we've got this amount of inventory at Amazon, and that's available plus reserved minus customer return. So we don't count customer orders as reserved. It's only FC processing and FC transfer. And then we have this is a work order, WO, and this means there's 8 units that's supposed to be checking in today as well. And basically what this is doing is it's saying, well, this is how much inventory you have at your warehouse right now. And based on your predicted sales, which is your adjusted velocity moving into the future, this is your inventory kind of being churned through or chewed through, I should say. And then any recommended orders and transfers will come in down later. this particular product has so much inventory in stock that it doesn't recommend anything until December, but you get the idea. So the inventory timeline is actually built from the bottom up. So we build out over an entire year of an inventory timeline, and then we reverse engineer it. The algorithm does, where it looks at how much inventory you're going to have at any point based on all of your calculation variables, which I'll get into next. So the first one we're going to start with here, this is about 85% of your forecast, is what we call your calculation variables. So we'll start with order schedule. The default setting is just like a monthly order schedule. Order every month on the 7th of the month or the 1st of the month. And you can have like a minimum and a maximum number of stock. Now your order schedule is going to be all predicated on your lead time that we talked about before. So it says down here, my default lead time is 115 days. So this is on this particular product for this supplier. We source inventory and we have this lead time that's automatically applied. And then it's going to fulfill, or not fulfill, but it's going to fill this warehouse called Hanu Worldwide. So when I place this order in March of 2023, it's going to take 115 days for it to arrive, and then it will refill this inventory here. And then I've decided to change this to as needed. So you can change this from monthly to weekly to whatever period of time you want, and starting on whatever day you want. I prefer as needed ordering because, sorry, let me just close that out. Someone's Skyping me in the background. So I prefer to choose as needed ordering with a buffer, min, and max stock. So what this is all about is you can set yourself a safety net. So my inventory is never going to go below 30 days at FBA and never going to go below 30 days at my warehouse if I want to keep buffer at my warehouse. And the cool thing about as needed is you can choose between days or units. I like days because it's a dynamic number, and what it's going to do is it's going to look at your adjusted velocity and also your velocity moving into the future. So if you have a velocity that's going to change and increase, you have seasonal spikes in the future, it's looking at all of your future sales and figuring out how much inventory every single day do you need to keep at FBA to maintain 30 days or 10 days or whatever your minimum is. And similarly, the maximum. And then including transfer time from the warehouse to FBA and including lead times from your supplier to the warehouse, how do we maintain these as well? All that is being calculated every single day. And we pull this data twice a day from Amazon and recalculate this twice a day. So I've got as needed ordering and as needed transfer schedule. So ordering, again, is replenishing my warehouse, and transferring is sending from my warehouse over into Amazon. We got a bunch of other settings here: MOQ, which is minimum order quantity; MTQ, which is minimum transfer quantity; units per carton. We can even set up an express lead time. So let's say if I'm running low or sales pick up like crazy, I want to have a backup lead time where it's still going to take 50 days to produce, but maybe I don't use ocean freight and I use air freight instead, and that can actually go direct to Amazon, right? So I'll set up my little backup lead time here. And if I save this, what's going to happen is if the system sees that I'm running low on inventory and my lead time is too long, my default lead time takes too long to replen my 3PL. Let's say I had very little inventory here and I was going to run out of inventory here, then it's going to say, instead of placing an order to replenish my warehouse, I'm going to get a recommendation, which will show up here, to send inventory directly to Amazon using my backup express lead time. So that's just an additional feature we have to keep you in stock. Transfer time is just a setting for how long it takes to get from here to FBA, including check-in time. And then we've got some additional tools. You can actually use our trend tool. If I put this on, I can choose a period of time last year to this year and see if I'm up or down. And it actually shows you the exact date range and the exact number of units last year versus this year. If you're up or down, you can add that positive or negative trend to your sales forecast. So like, let's say, for example, last month versus the previous month or something like that, I'm still down. Wow, we're not doing so good this year on this product. But anyway, you get the idea. So that's what that one is. This is a really cool tool that most other softwares don't have. It's called a sales spikes tool. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at your sales history. And any day when your sales your sales history is any day where there were sales that were 150% above your average for the 30 days surrounding that period, it's going to replace that sales spike with what you should have sold or what you normally would have sold, which is basically your average. So let's say Prime Day that just happened on July 13th is a perfect example. We sold 27 units on Prime Day, which is great. But normally we would sell, this is our kind of our average here. So it replaced 27 with 12. And it looks like there's a little glitch. That 12 shouldn't be crossed out. That should be uncrossed. So that's showing you we're going to replace this number with this number. So we don't inflate your future sales velocity with these giant sales spikes. And if you say, you know what, actually this one and this one were not sales spikes, I want to keep those in my forecast. Those are genuine sales, even though it was 150% or above. I want to keep those in my forecast, and that will increase my velocity a little bit. But that's an organic increase, not an inorganic sales spike. So you can filter in or filter out those sales spikes, and that will affect your velocity a little bit. We have a similar thing for deep discount sales, which I personally never offer deep discounts anymore. But if you're running a coupon, then it will show anytime when your retail price went below 30% or less of your average, and it will filter that sales day out of your forecast as well. Like, for example, product launches and things like that. You don't want those sales days to be influencing your future velocity or forecast. Stockouts, this is a really big one. So if you've ever stocked out, most stockout tools will only look at days when your inventory went to zero and take that out of your forecast. What we did is we built this really fancy deal where, yeah, if your inventory goes to zero, that's obviously a stockout day, but you actually have to have a no inventory report from Amazon as well, because I might have a zero sales day that's not actually stocked out. So not only do you have to have zero sales day, but also we have to have a no inventory report from Amazon. If both of those criteria are met, we'll call that a stockout day, and we'll replace that zero sales with the average for that period. Also, if I toggle this on, I can say I want a zero sale. So this would just be zero sales only. But if I toggle this on, I can say not only do I want zero sales, if I get a stockout report for the day and my my sales velocity goes below 30% of my average. Sorry, if it goes 70% below my average, meaning it leaves 30% or less, then I also want to include that as a stockout day. So let me give an example of what that means. So let's say I stock out of my product on Monday, but Amazon finds 1 or 2 units on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then they go, okay, well, we sold one. Well, that whole period technically is a stockout period. I normally sell, let's say, 10 or 15 units a day, but Amazon found a couple that were hidden, I don't know, under the Coke machine or something like that. They threw it back in inventory and they sold them. So now my entire sales velocity is being deflated because of these 2 little micro sales days, which aren't even real sales days. So I want to exclude those from my forecast and just replace it with the average. So that's the stockout tool. Any questions so far?
No, I mean, this is really impressive.
Thank you.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we've worked hard at it. Thanks. And so, like, when we built this, we were doing beta testing with 7- and 8-figure sellers for about a year. And Chelsea was personally onboarding every single one of them. And we were basically getting tons and tons of feedback. And they said, well, can you make it like this? And can you add this? And so we still do that. I do all the tech support with my small team. So we're very, very intimately working with our customers, our users, I should say, to make the tool better always. Okay, I'll kind of blast through the rest of this stuff. So stockouts, MCF stands for multi-channel fulfillment. So that would be if you're selling on Shopify or WooCommerce or some other site, but you're using Amazon fulfillment, we're going to include those normally. So the default setting is yes, include. And so if I'm making off Amazon sales, but I'm fulfilling them by Amazon, I still need to know about that because I got to send that inventory into FBA. So we can turn that on, and MCF sales will be included in my forecast. So it'll be included up here, even though it's technically not an Amazon sale. I need to see it because I need to know that that inventory is being fulfilled at FBA. This is just kind of a recap. Additional sales growth. So this is kind of just an overall growth tool. Let's say, I know we haven't been doing so good this year, but I just hired a new marketing company and they're going to put the coals on and I expect to grow by 10% this year. Great. Add 10% to this entire forecast in one simple little addition, right? So it just, every time I save this, it takes a minute to recalculate the entire inventory timeline. And like I said, all these tools you can save and apply to groupings of products. So now my entire forecast just increased by 10%, which isn't much. It went from like 9.5 to 10.5 or 11.5, whatever it was. All right, this is just kind of more data. Oh, this is kind of cool. So lightning deals. If you're ever planning on doing like a one-time sale, we use the term lightning deals kind of loosely. It could be any type of sales boost. You can add it in here. So let's say, I'm going to do I don't know, let's say in September, we're going to do some kind of a sale on this one weekend, and I expect to move an additional 250 units. What's going to happen is I'll save that in my forecast. And this could be 1 week, it could be 1 day. You could stretch this out for a whole month if you wanted to. And let's go down to September and I'll show you what that looks like. So on my adjusted velocity here, sorry, my screen's a bit small. You can see here, September 10th and 11th, I've got my standard velocity, my seasonality, which I'll explain later, and then those additional 250 units across 2 days. It's adding that in. So now the system is calculating that and going, okay, so if I'm running low on inventory, I'm going to have to transfer earlier or order more inventory to my warehouse to compensate for that upcoming sale. Okay, here's the fun part. This one's a brand new tool that we just launched, and this is really, really cool. So how this used to work is we would just have these manual sales spikes where you could plug in a date range, like, and you can still do it. We still have the old way. Like, let's say the standard one I would give is like, Black Friday to the end of the year. Whoops, I didn't do that right. So Black Friday until, let's try that again, November 25th through, let's say, December 22nd. Nope, still screwed up. Okay, one more time. I promise I know how this works. Okay, so that's basically Christmas, right? So I could just call this Xmas or whatever I want. And I usually do 250% increase during that period, and I would save that. And it would work the exact same way as the lightning deals do, only it's percentages instead of units. And you can lock in the units and you can repeat annually, and there's some other cool stuff. But what we just recently launched is probably my favorite tool, and it's called automatic seasonality. So how this works, this is a bit more complicated, but we have some advanced clients that really, really wanted this. So we took some time and built it. What this is doing is it's looking at the actual last 365 days. Now this is set to monthly, but I can look at it weekly, bi-weekly, or quarterly. I like monthly, just so it's 12 periods over the last year. And what did we sell in terms of units? So 605 units sold in 2021 August, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is called a seasonal curve. And what it's doing is it's plotting a line, which is 100% of our annual average. So it's just giving us kind of our baseline annual average here in a percentage. So whatever, like obviously this year, that line is going to be higher or lower, but it's still going to be 100%. So this is 100% of our annual average of last year. And then what percentage of our annual average were we hitting for each of those months? So to make the math simple, 605 units sold was 133% of our annual average, right? Over here in October, we sold 315 units, which was 69% of our annual average. And you can figure out what your annual average is by just dividing this number by that number, but it doesn't even matter. The point is, it's going to take this curve, and if I save, which we've already done in the past, it's going to apply that seasonal curve to our future sales, which we can see here. So now what it's doing, let me just switch this to monthly. So this was our seasonal curve that we just looked at on the last page. It's going to take that exact same seasonal curve, but apply it to our new current average velocity, which is lower, and then plot our sales for the next year. And this one's higher because I just added that manual. What was it? Lightning deal. So that's why that one looks higher for this year. Anyway, so this is awesome. So what we can do though is you'll never have to go and add these manual spikes or any of that, except for your occasional lightning deal. I can actually take this and I can save and apply this to all products. I can even, I'm not going to go through all the different settings, but let's say I was launching a brand new product that had no sales history, but I had a family of products that I wanted to borrow it from. I could say, you know, I'm launching a new type of Himalayan salt. So I'm going to take the seasonality from my other salt product and apply it to this product here. And then I can kind of, you know, guesstimate what my velocity will be, including seasonality. So that's pretty fun. And there's some other tricks that you can do with that, but that's the majority of that. So that's pretty much how the forecast works. In terms of the forecast tools, there's all kinds of other advanced settings. You can snooze things, you can apply things differently, but just as a quick overview, because we're already at 12:30, I just want to make sure that I really covered the seasonality part. We also have a restock limits tool that we turned on last year. In this case, it's off, but if I turn this on, what I can do is I can actually take the seasonality, not the seasonality, but the restock limits from Amazon and apply those. So it'll actually take, because in, I think it was June of 2021, Amazon switched from restock limits by ASIN or SKU to restock limits per account. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a bit of a fiasco where people's restock limits were lowered and they could only send in a total of X number of units. So they had to figure out, well, gosh, I've got, you know, 100 different products. How do I decide how much to send in? So our tool will actually analyze all that for you once you do some basic settings and apply that to your product. So like, for example, here, let's say my max inventory level is 2,500 and I've got 1,235 at Amazon right now. That's a deficit of, you know, 1,265 that I can send in. And the system's going to go, okay, in US and Canada, standard size, we're going to look at all your listings that meet those criteria and divide it by 1,265, but not evenly. It goes better than that. It's going to say, okay, well, here, actually, I kind of screwed this one up because I want to turn this one on. This is actually the wrong one. Sorry. I should have cleaned this up before I came in here. So we're looking at the North America forecast. So let's do something like this. Let's say 3,500. All right, let me just go ahead and save that. So this 907 units that you just saw, right? So see this little percentage right here, 91.87%. What that means is if we look at the velocity of all of our products in that storage type and in that marketplace or region, it's going to figure out what percentage of your restock limit should be allocated to each one of those products based on their own individual percentage of the total velocity. So yeah, this one, basically the simplest way to explain it is this one makes up for 91% of our total sales. This one's only 6%. So we're going to take, if it was 1,000 units that we're allowed to send in, we're going to take, you know, 910 for that one, right? You know, 60 for that one, et cetera, and it'll kind of balance it out that way. All right. So now placing orders. So after you've got your forecasts all set up for your products, we can then group by supplier or group by warehouse or build custom dashboards. In this case, we're just going to do a really simple one. This is looking at what orders do we need to place. And let's just say this was a lot earlier. That was just refreshing because of my new restock limit. So the 907 thing I was telling you about, it just took a minute to save. If I want to place an order, and I can place an order for one product or multiple products from that supplier. Now, normally I would have like a lot more products by supplier, but this is our test account. And my other demo account is being used by another onboarding right now. So we're kind of using two different accounts. But I can click this button, I'll get to the point, and this will actually create a purchase order. So it's analyzing all of your forecasts. And this is way out in the future, obviously, because we don't really need it. So I'll just pretend that we need this today. And it's basically saying you need to order 720 units from this supplier, and you need to send it to, you know, your standard lead time. And I can literally just create a PO and go through the process. It's going to arrive at Hanu Worldwide on November 26th based on our lead time. And then I can preview it. And it's just recalculating everything and adding it all in there. And then from the system, I can actually email this purchase order to my supplier. So once I submit it, I can submit it and I can download it and go through my own email system, or you can use SoStocked and we will email it for you. So it's kind of an option. So I can go ahead and just say, I want to send my supplier this email, and my instructions here are kind of defaulted, send, boom, done, right? And what happens is that now goes into our order tracker. So now we're on the orders page. So we went from like settings, vendors, inventory, forecast, now we're in the orders section. So this is kind of like a giant Trello board sort of, and it moves from column to column. So if I have POs that I'm working on, they'll show up here. If I have FBA shipments that I need to match up, they'll be here. These are just recommendations. I don't really pay much attention to that because I usually use the forecast page. So now I've got this new PO that I've just submitted, and it's in production. And it's just going to go through the lead time until it gets to its final destination. Now, the one thing we don't have in SoStocked yet, and we're working on the tech, and hopefully Carbon 6 can help us with this, is we don't have a crystal ball. Meaning I can't predict the future. I don't actually know if your supplier, had a monsoon that weekend and they are 2 days behind their production. Like, I don't know that stuff. I also don't have tracking devices on the shipping containers. So we're basically going off of your lead time. But some people go, you know what, our lead times are so jacked up because of the supply chain or COVID. I want to, instead of have it automatically go through my lead time, I want to switch this to manual mode. And what that does is I have to personally go here and change it column by column. And then when it eventually gets to my warehouse, I have to come in here and say how much inventory was received. So I can come in here and I can go, all units have been received today, and it's just going to receive that inventory. My inventory levels at the warehouse just increased by 720, and now that PO is essentially finished. So that'll be done all automatically in automatic mode, or if it's in locked manual mode, you can override the system. And there's a lot of different features in there. What else? We pull FBA shipments twice a day. SoStocked does not have the ability to create new FBA shipping plans from inside of our software. And the reason why we decided, it was actually one of the most requested tools. And we kind of sat on it for a while. We were debating back and forth if we should launch that or not. But the issue is this. One of the things that people really like about SoStocked is our API is a one-way street, meaning we pull data from Amazon, but we do not push any data into Amazon. So there's nothing you can do in SoStocked that would ever negatively affect your seller account. We've heard so many horror stories of various random softwares where people will go into their Amazon Seller Central. They'll be like, my product listing was suspended, or this or that, or whatever problem. And when they ask seller support, they're like, you have a third-party developer who is manipulating your listings or doing something, and you get in trouble. We didn't want to deal with that. So we're kind of like, look, here's how it works. 2 times a day, we pull your FBA shipments in. You can see the FBA shipments here, and they'll also show up on our order tracker here. Right now, I don't have any to reconcile, but that's what it means. When it says to reconcile, all that means is I need to match up an FBA shipment with an existing PO or transfer that's in the system. That's all it means. So we don't double count inventory. We don't think, oh, cool, you've got, if we didn't do it that way, then we would say you've got 622 units inbound to Amazon, but you've also got 622 units on this PO that you just made. So you have, 1,300 units or whatever. So instead of doing that, we just match them together, and that's called reconciling. So that's all. We just match them up real quick, takes about 30 seconds. And then what we do is we pull Amazon API data and move it through the lead time. So if your lead time says it's going to arrive at Amazon, let's say in a week, but they start scanning inventory tomorrow, we'll ignore the lead time and we'll just put it in the FBA column. And as units get checked in, you'll be able to monitor that. Okay, that's the majority of it. I could ramble on for another 2 hours, is what I do all day, but I'm going to just kind of open it to Q&A, or, Agassi, if you have any questions too, or not questions, but if you got, anything you want to mention or ask.
No, this has been great. This is
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
So
this is interesting.
Yeah. So in terms of pricing, I'll just jump into that because I'm sure you're wondering. We have a 30-day free trial, and pricing is all based on the size of your account. And what we decided to do is a tiered system, which is pretty standard, except what we're going to do is we're going to move you up and down. A lot of companies, when they have tiered, they go, okay, so you do 1,000 orders a month, it's going to be $79. The minute you do 1,001, it's going to tier you up to the next level. And let's say you had a really good Christmas, now you're going to pay $584 forever. That's not how we do it. So let's say you normally do, I don't know, average would probably be about 3,000 a month or something like that. So you're paying 100 a month, and during Christmas you sell a little bit more, and then in January you do less. You're going to go up and down through these levels based on the preceding month. You can also lock it in annually and save 20% if you want to pay up front, which a lot of people do, because you know, obviously after they're convinced that they like us, then you can save that money. So it kind of shows you what your average would be versus you know, versus if you did it monthly. Now, for agencies and aggregators, before I click on this, this agency and aggregator pricing really starts at 15 accounts. Let me open this up in a separate, did I click on the whole thing? Here, let's try that one more time. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna just do the little workaround here. Agency pricing. All right, I'll just show you. Full disclosure. So you can see as you grow, so it's similar, but it's by accounts instead of by order. So if you have 15 accounts, it's 1,035 a month, which averages out to about, you know, whatever that is. I'm not very good at math, less than 100 per account. And then it goes up from there, right?
Sure.
Or it goes down from there, I should say. So your averages go down with the more accounts you have. I think right now our biggest agency is about 58 or 60 accounts. So what we'll do for you is we can do the 30-day free trial. Your first account is going to be billed at full price. And then each additional account after that will give you 50% off whatever its pricing is. So let's just do simple math, right? So let's say you had 4 accounts all doing 1,000 orders or less per month. The first one would be 79, and each of the other 3 would be 39.50.
Got it. And then would those be all on the same, like if I'm doing my forecasting, can I look at that
Oh, good question.
as a total business, or is that going to be
They're all
account
going to
by
be
account?
they're going to be separate. Obviously, you can use the same card and all that. We can link them all together. But essentially, what happens is because the way the API works and licensing and, you know, seller IDs and TOS and things like that, we're not going to merge all of your accounts into one dashboard. You'll just toggle between them here.
Gotcha.
So I'm in the TV account right now. I can switch over to demo account, similar to when you're in Seller Central. You got that drop down where you go between. Now I just connected to Amazon Australia that I'm testing out, so it's still importing. But you can see this is my account that we use a lot more with a lot more stuff in it.
Sure.
Right. So I can just toggle between here. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. That was super helpful. I mean, I actually have a meeting that I'm about to hop on with the rest of the team to not necessarily to go over this, but I'm definitely gonna talk to them about this. And I mean, you guys have built a really incredible tool. I mean, I can certainly see this being a huge help for us.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver for us. I appreciate the compliment. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. You can always reach me at helpme@SoStocked.com. That I run the tech support, so I'm answering tickets and doing stuff all day. I'm sure Agassi, obviously, if you want to ask him questions too, we're here to help.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much
Great,
for your
Will.
time, guys. Appreciate it.
Good to meet you.